Rhaenyra Targaryen was supposed to be the strongest queen this show has ever given us. The rightful heir, the one we are meant to root for, the one whose story is built around proving that a woman can wear the crown, and yet every episode that goes by, she gets smaller. The premiere of Season 3 made it impossible to ignore. Locked in her own bedroom by her own son, she paces, she panics, she grabs a knife and starts cutting up a dress, and then she turns and quotes Queen Elizabeth I. "I may have the weak and feeble body of a woman, but I possess the heart and spirit of a king." That is supposed to be her line. The kind of speech that defines a character. The kind of scene viewers remember. It does not land, not even a little. And that scene is not the problem on its own. It is part of a pattern. Every time the show tries to make Rhaenyra look strong, the writing makes her look weaker. Every time she gets a big moment, the moment quietly works against her. So today I want to talk about how that is happening. The locked room, the dress, the borrowed line, the bigger pattern across the entire show, and why the Rhaenyra we are watching is not the Rhaenyra the writers think they are showing us. If you enjoy these breakdowns, drop a like and subscribe. It helps a lot. Let's get into it. First, let me explain what is going on in that scene. The line about the body of a woman and the spirit of a king is not original. It is borrowed almost word for word from a real speech given by Queen Elizabeth I of England. She delivered it in 1588, right before her army was about to face the Spanish Armada. The full version is something like, "I know I have the body of a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king." When Elizabeth said it, it worked. It worked for very specific reasons. She was speaking publicly, to an army of skeptical men. Men who genuinely doubted that a woman could lead them into one of the most dangerous moments in English history. She was using their misogyny against them. She was saying, in effect, "I know what you think about women, and here is why I am still your ruler anyway." She had also already spent 30 years on the throne. She had proven herself. She was respected, feared, effective. The line landed because the woman saying it had earned the right to flip the narrative on its head. Now look at the version we got in House of the Dragon. Rhaenyra is not addressing an army. She is not in public. She is not facing skeptical soldiers. She is locked in her bedroom with 2 other women in the room after her own son has overruled her. She has just torn up a piece of clothing because she could not get her way. And she delivers a famous historical quote in the middle of a tantrum. The context destroys the line. A speech meant for the eve of war becomes a private outburst. A statement of power becomes a complaint. A line that should land like a sword becomes a whisper from someone who has just lost an argument with her own child. Even if the line itself is good, the moment is wrong. And in storytelling, the moment is everything. Now let me talk about the dress. Before Rhaenyra delivers the line, she grabs a knife and starts stabbing at a dress that is laid out in her room. She cuts it apart. She tears it to pieces. The camera frames it as a powerful moment of frustration boiling over. But what is she actually doing? She is destroying a piece of feminine clothing because she is angry about being treated like a woman. That is a problem. Symbolically, the dress represents her femininity. By stabbing it, she is rejecting it. She is saying in image form that her womanhood is what is holding her back. That her dress, her body, her gender are the things keeping her from being a real ruler. If the show is trying to make her look strong here, this is the wrong way to do it. Because the message it sends is that femininity is weakness. That to be powerful, she needs to be more like a man. That dresses and gowns and womanhood are the enemy. That is not what good storytelling about a female ruler should look like. A woman who needs to reject being a woman to be respected is not breaking the system. She is agreeing with it. She is saying the system is right and that her body is the problem. Compare that to who Rhaenyra is supposed to be. In the book, Rhaenyra loved being a woman. She loved gowns. She loved jewels. She loved being pampered. She was confident in her femininity. She did not see it as a problem to overcome. She just wanted the throne, and she did not see why being a woman should disqualify her from having it. That is the real version of this character. A woman who is unapologetically feminine and unapologetically powerful at the same time. Someone who proves you can be both. Someone who would never tear up a dress because the dress was never the problem. The show stripped all of that away. The Rhaenyra we are watching now hates her own body. She rejects her own femininity. She acts like being a woman is a curse she has to overcome rather than a part of who she is. And the show frames that hatred as empowerment. It is not. It is the opposite. The bigger problem is that this is not an isolated scene. It is part of a pattern. The show keeps trying to give Rhaenyra big moments, and the writing keeps quietly working against her. Think about her coronation in Season 1. The moment she is crowned, she does not stand tall and proud. She gets pulled down through the floor of the dragon pit on the back of Syrax. She breaks through stone. People die. The camera lingers on her face as she lets out a kind of half roar at the people who failed her. That moment was supposed to be epic. It came across as panicked. A queen so overwhelmed by a political crisis that she chose to make a dramatic exit instead of leading her people through the moment. Now think about season 2. She spends most of the season in mourning, reactive, indecisive. She wants peace one minute and war the next. She negotiates without leverage. She lets her advisors push her in 3 different directions at once. By the end of the season, she has lost a battle, lost a dragon, lost an ally, and lost the high ground politically. And every time she has a moment where she could rise to the occasion, the writing pulls her back down. She makes a hard decision and then second guesses it. She gives a speech and then doubts it. She acts like a queen for 10 minutes and then collapses into tears. There is a version of this character that works. A version where her grief makes her dangerous, where her losses harden her, where her humanity coexists with her ruthlessness. The show keeps gesturing at that version without ever committing to it. Instead, we get this. A queen who is constantly being overruled by her father, by her uncle, by her sons, by her advisors, by the realm itself. A queen who delivers lines about being a king while being locked in her own bedroom. The writers want us to see strength. The writing keeps showing us weakness. The hardest part is that this is happening to a character who was set up perfectly. Young Rhaenyra in season 1 was incredible. The actress who played her, Millie Alcock, gave us a teenage princess full of fire. She was funny, she was bold, she was reckless. She knew she was meant for the throne and she was not going to apologize for it. She had real charisma. You believed she could be a ruler. Then the show jumped 10 years forward, and something changed. It is not entirely fair to blame the actress alone. Emma Darcy is a talented performer, and they are doing their best with what the writers have given them. But the choices being made on the page are pulling the character in a direction that does not match the foundation season 1 built. The bold teenage princess is gone. In her place is a woman who cries in almost every scene, who hesitates before every decision, who explains her own feelings instead of acting on them, who keeps being talked down from her own conclusions by men around her. That is not a queen learning to be queen. That is a queen being slowly written out of her own story. Now, I want to point out something that I think is the strangest part of this whole problem. The show wants us to root for Rhaenyra. The framing is clear. She is the rightful heir. She is the moral choice. She is the one we are supposed to believe in. But the writing keeps undercutting her, and not just her. Alicent too. Both of the main women in this show are written in a way that makes them seem indecisive, emotional, and unable to lead. The result is that the show ends up doing something it almost certainly did not intend to do. It accidentally makes the case that these 2 women are not fit to rule. Every time Rhaenyra second guesses herself, the show is showing us a queen who cannot commit. Every time Alicent has a tantrum at her father or her son, the show is showing us a regent who cannot hold the line. Every time one of them gives a powerful speech and then immediately undoes it with a panicked decision, the show is showing us women who are not built for power. That is the opposite of what the show wants. And it stands out even more when you compare them to the one female character on the show who actually does something. Lohar, the pirate, the villain, the woman the show kills off. Lohar was loud, she was crude, she was funny. She made decisions and lived with them. She was a real character with real agency. And the show framed her as a villain and then got rid of her, while the women we are supposed to be rooting for spend their episodes in bedrooms and council chambers crying about how unfair their lives are. Think about what that means. The only woman the show allowed to act decisively was the one it labeled the enemy. The 2 women the show wants us to celebrate are the ones it keeps writing as helpless. That is not feminism. That is not empowerment. That is a show that does not actually know how to write a powerful woman, so it writes 2 weak ones and then tells us they are strong. So what should the show have done? There is a simple answer. Let Rhaenyra be the version of her that the book gave us. Confident in her femininity. Unapologetic about wanting the throne. Pampered, yes, sometimes selfish, yes, sometimes cruel, even. But never confused about who she is. Never ashamed of being a woman. Never needing to convince herself that she has the heart of a king to feel worthy. Book Rhaenyra wanted the throne because it was hers, not because she had a special soul. Not because she was secretly more masculine than she looked. She wanted the throne because her father had promised it to her, and she was determined to claim what was hers. That is a powerful character. That is someone you can root for or root against. That is someone you can argue with at dinner. That is a queen. The show could have written that. The actress could have played that. The story would have worked. Instead, the writers chose to make her ashamed of being a woman. They made her hate her own body. They made her tear up her own clothes. They made her, quote, a famous queen in her bedroom while her son grounded her like a teenager. And then they framed all of that as her finest moment. So that is the problem, not the actress. not the scene alone, the whole approach. The show is trying to write a powerful queen by writing a woman who hates being a woman. It thinks that is empowerment. It is not. It is the same old story about female weakness, told with slightly different words and a slightly bigger dragon. The real version of Rhaenyra would have been someone who walked into that bedroom, ripped the door off its hinges, and flown into battle whether her son wanted her to or not. Or someone who calmly accepted being overruled and started planning her next move with quiet menace. The version we got threw a tantrum, stabbed a dress, and recited Elizabeth I to the wall. That is not a queen. That is a girl who has been told she is a queen and is trying very hard to believe it. And the saddest part is that every season, the show takes another little piece of her away. Her decisiveness, her confidence, her body, her voice, her certainty. Piece by piece, scene by scene, the writers are taking the character we met in season 1 and replacing her with someone smaller, sadder, and more confused. That is what I mean when I say the show is quietly destroying Rhaenyra. There is no big betrayal, no single scene that ruined her. It is a slow erosion. A character being chipped away at, week after week, until the version we have left barely resembles the version we started with. If she ever does become the queen the story needs her to be, it is going to be a miracle of writing. Because right now, the show is doing everything it can to make sure that does not happen. So that is the video. Rhaenyra deserved better. The book gave the show a confident, powerful, unapologetically feminine queen. The show keeps writing her as the opposite, and every season, she gets a little smaller. I hope I am wrong. I hope the next few episodes give her something to actually stand on. I hope she gets a moment that lands. A speech that works. A decision she does not undo. But based on what we have seen so far, I am not optimistic. If you have your own theory about why Rhaenyra is being written this way, or if you disagree completely, drop it in the comments. I would love to hear it. And if you have not yet, hit subscribe so you can catch